We all try on clothes before we buy them, right? But did you know you could be trying virus, bacteria, and poop with that new outfit? Now, who wants to shop until they drop now? Not so much.
Not so much.
Well, this NYU study came out, and they did testing on this clothes that people tried out in various department stores, and the results were a little alarming.
They found norovirus, fecal bacteria, Staph aureus, and strep. And many of these bacteria actually live on the clothes. So, for example, methicillin-resistant staph lives up to 6 months on the clothes after people have tried them on, and they really just attribute it to all these people coming in. You don't know how long those clothes have been on the shelf and how many people have tried them before you.
We can't just say it's a New York thing, can we? No.
Though we'd like to say that.
We'd like to say that.
I think so.
No.
Of course, we're not saying don't buy new clothes. We're just saying be mindful and be careful when you do. And also, when you're shopping, you're touching stuff, and you can still pick up viruses and bacteria. So don't run to the food court and then eat stuff and start licking that norovirus off your fingers. No. Make sure you wash your hands first.
Cold and flu season is upon us, both of those caused by viruses. A great weapon against those pesky viruses is to wash your hands regularly and use hand sanitizer. But when it comes to hand sanitizer, is it as helpful as we think? A new study out of Japan found that the Influenza A virus was sometimes still active after being exposed to an ethanol-based hand sanitizer. In particular, they found it when those viral particles were surrounded by mucus, the virus was able to survive the hand sanitizer, and it took 4 whole minutes of the hands rubbing with the sanitizer to actually kill the virus. And this is a lesson for me because I am a guy who, if I'm traveling on airplanes, I'll put a little hand sanitizer, ethanol base, and it's just like, let it dry off. But now, if you sneeze in your hand and you don't have access to washing your hands, which we know is the best way, you gotta get it in there. Yeah. We use our hands to touch everything, and yet this is how we tend to stop our sneezes. This is where the mucus lives. So just be cognizant of that. And I will still say this, there is a place for hand sanitizer because a lot of times we don't have access to, in these crowded spots, buses, going to work in the morning. Still better than nothing.
Isn't it interesting that everyone is so afraid of the toilet seat, and the toilet seat is so much cleaner than all the other areas of a bathroom? You do have to worry a little bit about when you go to flush that. Think about how many hands have touched that flusher, and they've just wiped, and they've just sneezed, and they've just coughed.
And
then you go turn the faucet on.
Put the hands on the counter, the
doorknob.
I will tell you that a very large, actually about half of women will not sit on a toilet seat in a public restroom.
Yeah, they don't.
Very interesting.
We actually swabbed some public restrooms to see who is dirtier, women or men, and the men's bathroom toilet seats were cleaner.
Huh. Well,
it's hard to believe. Especially since so many women avoid sitting on the toilet seat.
Well, I think though that men have another option in many public bathrooms.
It's true.
So they're probably only using those stalls about half as much or less compared to women.
And you want to know what else is interesting about the behaviors? You were reading about this, I'm sure.
I read, yeah.
So women will almost always choose the stall furthest away from the entrance because they think no one else uses it. Men, they go for the first one. There it is, I'm in. And when you swab, it shows that in men's restrooms, the toilet seat closest to the door is the dirtiest. In women's bathrooms, it's the one furthest away.
Yeah.
Most important thing when you go use the restroom is certainly be mindful, and that's for the next person as well as yourself, but wash those hands. And then after those hands are clean, remember, you want to avoid touching the objects that everyone else has touched. So if you need to, and if I'm on an airplane, I'll use my elbow to shut the door, whatever it takes, keep those hands. If those hands come out of that bathroom unscathed, you're probably not going to get anything. The flu, the cold,
it's true,
or any other bug.
Apparently only 66% of Americans actually do wash their hands after using a public bathroom.
Well, after listening to this segment, they probably may start washing a little more.
Some things.
A little more often.
When you think of bacteria, what's the first place that comes to mind? Either the toilet or wherever the poopetrators have been.
Correct.
But public restrooms, they seem like a breeding ground for bacteria, but can they actually make you sick? Today we're going to separate myth from reality on this subject. So let's take the toilet seat. 65% of you think you can catch the flu from that seat. What do you all think? No, most people here are saying no. So can the flu virus live on a toilet? Yes. Influenza, other viruses can live for 2-3 days on these non-porous surfaces. That would include your phone, remote control, and certainly the toilet seat. Here's the good news.
It's possible, but pretty unlikely.
This is the beauty of medicine. There are a lot of technically true things that practically aren't.
So a lot of myths out there about the flu shot that we can talk about, but the first myth is you don't get the flu from getting the flu vaccine.
And the way a flu shot works is each fall, the CDC, the Centers for Disease Control, tries to figure out which flu viruses are very likely to be dangerous or problematic that year. So they pick the top 3, 2 influenza type A and 1 type B.
All right, hold it real quick, because I want everyone to see how, look, you just you look at it and just say, come to daddy. Barely even felt it.
Awesome.
Well,
that's it. You know, and I think the fear is the worst part if people are afraid of it.
Back to your point, you don't get the flu from getting the flu shot, but you can feel a little bit crummy, but that just means your immune system is working. Yeah. Exactly. So multiply the crumminess that you feel when you get the flu shot times 100, and that's how you would feel if you had the actual flu.
Yeah.
So.
And remember, 250 to 500,000 people die every year from the flu, according to the World Health Organization. So it's such a small thing. It
really is.
So preventive. It's so worth it.
I like to get the flu shot as many times as possible just because I like to invite people to the gun show.
Oh, yeah. All right.